I'm sort of doing this one backwards. The tape that comes after this about my teenage years in Rhode Island. This one should be second. But anyway, uh, this is like 1971, 72. I'm repeating myself. When I was a boy, I lived in Rhode Island and I had a good friend, Kevin. He's still my good friend. He's very ill these days, but he's still my good friend. And we were hanging around with a guy who was a lot older than us that was dating his sister, who was a lot younger than him. And he married her eventually. But we kind of like worked for him doing quasi bad guy stuff and dumb things. But between that, we had jobs, delivering newspapers, working in factories. My father hired me a lot to paint for him, then he'd fire us, both Kevin and I, and then bring us back in a week or so. So we were just doing teenage things. We had both quit high school. We had no use for it, and Kevin's mother gave us a house to use across from her house. It was, for a young guy, it was a pretty wild, fun life. So Kevin is a lot more aggressive than I am. And as I told in the next tape, there was a bunch of patriarchal mob guys who had their business, part of their business in our neighborhood. One of these guys who, he's like way down the pole. I don't even think he had associate status. He was way down the pole. But he was in enough to be able to go into their office in this plumbing building, but also he hung out with us at the bowling alley at the same time. So one day he goes up to Kevin and he says, "Look, I need you guys, me and Kevin. I gave this guy some fireworks. There's always a story, by the way, behind these. And then I gave him, he gave me that. Then you turn around, and it's a favorite expression around. You turn around. You turn around, the guy's standing there. You turn around, and you got to pay more. He says, I gave the guy some fireworks, and he was going to pay me. I let him pay me later when he sold the fireworks. Fireworks are illegal in Rhode Island. They were. And the guy didn't pay him. So he says, I'll give you both $20. Now, bear in mind, we're very young. Places we can work are limited. And the minimum wage is $1.65. So to go one town up into Cranston, get this clown, get the money, come back, it's not a bad day's work. Kevin and I would have pooled the money anyway, so it was $40. And I'm not good with money. I'm certainly not good at asking for money. Kevin, no such qualms. He's a greedy little dog, and I love him. But he negotiates, and he's tough, and he's good at it. But part of the negotiations at that when we were young in that part of the world, in our working class world, it had to come with insults. $20. Do I look like your mother? And that kind of thing. Anyway, Kevin gets us both $50. It's a lot of money. This is what you have to learn about. Well, you don't have to. This isn't a lesson on how to be a quasi bad guy. You need to be careful because people lie in that world, in that realm. It's one thing you never see in the movies about mobsters. They lie. They lie about everything. When they're talking to you, they're thinking of the lie they're going to tell you next week that ties into the lie they're telling you today. I'm not kidding you. Everybody lies in that world. And it could have been he didn't give the guy any fireworks. Maybe the guy gave him fireworks. You never know. Maybe he winked at his girlfriend and so forth. And I think in his little brain, this guy Jewel, wasn't his real name. It was like Marco Gugalati or something. They call him. He probably just called himself Jewel. He says, go up and get. He in his brain. We're going to go up there and beat this guy senseless or something. He'd seen way too many TV shows. Let me tell you, when you are doing stuff like that, you don't raise your hand to anybody. Let me explain why. So let's say you go up, you get this guy, he gives you the money without a problem, or he gives you a little lip. You smack him, right? It's easy to do. There's two of you, one of him, he's scared. What could happen? The next time he sees you, you could not be with your buddy, right? And he might remember. You're not going to remember him. He is going to. You hit a man, he'll always remember you. He might come up from behind you. He might have his family with him. Everybody in Rhode Island has a 10,000 member family. That could happen. You don't know. You could be out on a date with a girl. He recognizes you from across the road or something, comes up and introduces you to Mr. Crowbar. I've seen that happen. So there was I don't know what this guy thought, but I wasn't going to punch anybody. Got the money. And Kevin, by the way, I love Kevin. Poor man's in a wheelchair today, but he was not. Believe me, he couldn't fight to save his life, literally. So, but we go up and find this guy where he is, and Kevin says, "Hey, you got Jules' money." But the way he said it scared me. So the guy runs. He's this young, dark-haired guy. He runs. And Kevin, again, who has seen way too many bad guy movies, yells, "We got a runner!" As if I know what a runner is. Go get him. So I was faster than Kevin, and I didn't smoke the 4 or 5 or packs of Newports he did. And I run after this guy. This guy runs into an apartment called like a triple decker. It's a house where there's 3 apartment buildings. He goes up the stairs. He lived there. I didn't know that. He lived on the 2nd floor. I go after him. He goes into his parent. He kicks in the front door of his mother's house. She's in there doing whatever. He runs through. In those apartments, they're lined up. They're called boxcar. There's one room after the other. There's no twists and turns. And then you go out a door and you're in the official front of the house. He runs through his mother's kitchen. I run through his mother's kitchen. She's screaming, "What's going on?" We're knocking over furniture. And I stop him. He goes, all right, I'll pay you. I said, "What are you running for?" Down, and the lady from across the hall, and they're all, "Get away from my son." I leave. It was the hardest $50 I ever worked for in my life. Never again. So, short story, but an interesting story.